Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council's Program, Finance, and Administration Committee, also known as PFAC. I am Deborah Nelson, and I'm the Director of the Office of Policy Planning and Performance for the New York State Department of Transportation. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording is posted on the NYMTC website within the next 2 weeks. Today's meeting is available by webinar as well as in person at the NYMTC office located at 25 Beaver Street in Lower Manhattan. For the meeting audience who are on the webinar, your lines remain muted throughout the meeting. The chat pod is being monitored by NYMTC staff. During the public participation session of the agenda, registered speakers will be called on in the order in which you've registered. Registered speakers who are participating by webinar will be called on and their lines will be unmuted for their remarks. At this time, I will begin the roll call. When I say your agency, I ask that each representative state your name and the NYMTC principal for whom you are representing. So I'm going to start with the voting members. New York State Department of Transportation, I'm Deborah Nelson. I'm representing Commissioner Marie-Therese Dominguez. New York City Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon, Renee Peter-Smith, representing City DOT Commissioner Mike Flynn.
Thank you, Renee. New York City Department of City Planning.
Connor Clark, representing Director Sadia Sherman.
Thank you, Connor. New York City Department of City Planning. I'm sorry, I just said that. Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Good morning. This is Julia Seltzer, representing Chairman Jano Lieber.
Thank you, Julia. Nassau County.
Good morning. This is Joe Cuomo, representing Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman.
Thank you, Joe. Suffolk County.
Hi, this is Chris Chatterton, representing Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine.
Thank you, Chris. Rockland County.
Hi, Pat Gurdon, representing Rockland County Exec Ed Day.
Thanks, Pat. Putnam County.
Morning, Barbara Barossa, representing Putnam County Executive Kevin Byrne.
Thank you, Barbara. And Westchester County.
Good morning, Craig Lader, representing Westchester County Executive Ken Jenkins.
Thank you, Craig. Now for the advisory members. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
Good morning, Jay Sheffield, representing Executive Director Catherine Garcia.
Thank you, Jay. New Jersey Transit. Maybe we don't have them on. North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. Do we have anyone from NJTPA? Okay, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. How about the Federal Transit Administration?
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Moser, representing Region 2 Administrator Mike Collada.
Thank you, Dan. Federal Highway Administration.
Good morning, everyone. Gautam, representing New York Division Administrator Rick Markey.
Thank you, Gautam. And anyone from the United States Environmental Protection Agency? Oh, and it looks like Bob Belowez from New York State DEC is on, but was unable to unmute. So thank you. By my count and under our operating procedures, we have a quorum for today's meeting. We will now move on to NYMTC's executive report. I'm going to hand it over to Adam Levine. Adam?
Thank you, Deborah. Good morning, and thank you, Deborah. The following are some of the noteworthy events that have taken place since our last meeting in February. As always, it has been a very busy winter into spring here at NYMTC, and here are several of the highlights of the extraordinary work we have underway. Our annual council meeting was a great success by all measures. Held at the NYU Kimmel Center in late February, the meeting was attended by several of our principal members, including both our outgoing co-chair, New York City DOT Commissioner Flynn, and our incoming and now current co-chair, Putnam County Executive Byrne, as well as our permanent co-chair, New York State DOT Commissioner Dominguez. At the meeting, we successfully adopted our Unified Planning Work Program for the 2026-2027 state fiscal year, and we honored the contributions of both of our outgoing co-chairs, including former New York City DOT Commissioner Rodriguez. In keeping with this year's theme of life, liberty, and the pursuit of transportation innovation, we looked back at all that we have achieved in the downstate area, even as we looked to the future. We shared feedback from students at Stony Brook University about transportation projects and issues on Long Island, and we had several of our September 11th fellowship graduate students from area universities in attendance. And of course, we had that memorable presentation from the New York City Charter School for the Arts on subway station melodies. The full meeting is available for viewing on our YouTube channel, and we're already looking ahead to next year's council meeting with great anticipation. Our Brown Bag webinar series took a brief pause in February to focus on our council meeting, but we came back strong in March with a webinar focused on our own hub-bound report for 2024. This study measures and examines the magnitude of public and private transportation modes operating to and from Manhattan's Central Business District, the busiest area of New York City, and by many measures, the largest and most attractive central business district in the world. This year's report was actually the 100th anniversary of the hub-bound report, dating back to its creation under the Regional Plan Association for the 1924 travel year. So it was fascinating to see the changes in commuting patterns over a century. Goodbye to trolleys and hello to bicycles and buses. The report is available on our website, www.nymtc.org, and the webinar is also available for viewing on our YouTube channel. Our next Brown Bag webinar will be next Thursday as we host the team from the Gateway Development Commission to talk about the Hudson Tunnel project. See you then. NYMTC, along with New York State DOT, has recently completed the transition to a new software program to manage and track our transportation improvement program. The previous system, eSTIP, has been retired, and Project Tracker is now up and running as the system of record for NYMTC's TIP and constraint plan projects. This system will be less cumbersome for our members and our staff, leading to greater efficiencies in the overall TIP management process. Our survey community of practice met last month with approximately 25 members in attendance. The primary purpose of this meeting was to introduce the group to the NYMTC Survey Data Fusion project, which kicked off in January. This project will update NYMTC's 2010-2011 Regional Household Travel Survey, or RHTS, to a more current year using readily available surveys and data sources. It will also serve as an alternative and additional resource for the upcoming RHTS that NYMTC will be conducting. The Survey Data Fusion team presented on the purpose of the project, the methodological approach, and the data needed for this synthetic update, as well as the potential uses for the synthetic trip diary. Turning to our travel modeling efforts, the New York Best Practice Model has been focusing these past months on our upcoming transportation air quality conformity analysis. The model was run for the required years to demonstrate that air pollutant emissions from projects included in our TIP and Regional Transportation Plan are consistent with or conform to the air quality goals in the New York State Implementation Plan. NYMTC staff have had several productive meetings in recent weeks with our members and our counterparts around the country. Both New York City DOT Commissioner Flynn and New York City Department of City Planning Director Sherman made time in their first few weeks on the job to meet with us and share their vision for the work we can accomplish together. NYMTC staff met with our counterpart in Miami to talk about innovations in traffic safety, a topic we'll hear more about in a few minutes, and we talked with our counterpart in the San Francisco Bay Area about efforts to improve public engagement with our regional transportation plans. We look forward to the improvements these conversations can help generate, and we will continue these efforts in the months ahead. As I close my report, I want to thank the staff here at NYMTC, as well as our members, for all of your hard work. Your dedication and service to the people of New York City, Long Island, and the Lower Hudson Valley is, as always, very much appreciated. And with that, I'll pass the virtual microphone back over to Deborah.
Thanks, Adam. Well, as always, a very impressive list of things that are going on there. Kudos to you and the staff, and as you mentioned, to the members. Good stuff. With that, we're going to continue today's meeting with a presentation on predictive and proactive traffic safety by New York University Tandon School of Engineering, C2SMART Transportation Research Center, Professor and Director Kaan Ozbay. Kaan, I'm going to hand it over to you, and we look forward to hearing about your presentation.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Adam, for inviting me. So we had a couple of attempts to do this without any problems. Hopefully, I'll be able to share my screen and not embarrass myself. That's good. I hope you can see my screen. So again, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everyone online and in person for listening to this presentation. I'm very happy to talk a little bit about our work on predictive and proactive traffic safety, some of our research, and some of the things that we think they'll be valuable to the members of NYMTC and also whoever is attending interested in traffic safety. This is an area that I've been working for decades. I don't want to tell you how many decades. It's not, very good. It's too many decades, actually. But the reason this is a little bit different than everything else that we've been doing, because now there's technology that enables us to do more than just counting number of crashes and then reporting them and so on. So hopefully I'll give you some ideas about that. So as you know, I mean, I don't have to spend too much time on that. This is not only a problem in the US, but worldwide. Traffic safety is a big problem. And actually, it's also becoming an issue when you talk about autonomous vehicles and new modes of transportation and so on. So for the foreseeable future, we'll be dealing with ideas and methods to improve traffic safety in addition to other problems related to transportation. So the numbers in the US, they're really high still, but worldwide, you see this is a, I mean, kind of incomprehensible number of numbers, more than 1 million people dying throughout the world. So this is anything we can do actually, even if you are successful in reducing number of crashes and deaths by 5%, that's a huge number. So the data traditionally, as I said, is basically you collect the data from actual crashes, and I since my PhD I work with police and to collect this type of data for crashes. More recently, there is more data about accidents that are not just injury or fatalities, but also other kinds of accidents. But still, we basically wait until a crash or an accident happens. So in this talk, we will kind of touch on ideas. What can we do beyond that? How can we use emerging technologies to capture different type of measures other than crashes or accidents? And that brings us to surrogate safety measures. Some of you might be familiar with that. And then how do we use this new data with the traditional data to make better decisions? And maybe touch a little bit about, like anything else that we do, the impact of artificial intelligence, AI, and ML, and so on for long-term decision making. Some of the methods that for data collection are presented here. Basically, obviously, there's a rich set of data that you can get from connected vehicles. Vehicles are now moving computers. So not only we know their trajectories through GPS, but we also know what's happening in terms of braking, accelerating, decelerating, movement, and so on. So that really a very rich data set. And actually, some of the companies, car companies, are willing to share that data set. And I don't know how many of you, I'm not there, so I cannot ask questions, but I'm sure some of you are familiar with the connected vehicle pilot that New York City DOT successfully completed several years ago. That was the whole idea: instrument number of vehicles and provide information to drivers and see what happens. And I have a few slides to talk about that. Beyond that, I mean, for more intermittent type of data collection, you can use new technologies like drones. So you can't, fly the drones 24/7, 365 days. But if you're interested in learning more about the traffic dynamics in a certain location, you can definitely collect drone-based data. For New York, that's a problem. But for other cities, people do that. In Europe, there's tons of data coming from this kind of data collection. and also video data. So with the advent of image processing, AI, and so on, the video data becomes easy to process and to understand in terms of vehicle dynamics, vehicle interactions, and so on. And you see on the video on the right side, this complex information that you couldn't get anywhere else can be obtained from the video, basically. So this is another way of looking at the same thing. So if you look at these videos, one thing that will strike you, if I can, collect this video data and process it in real time, I can actually make some decisions, maybe not next 5 minutes, but maybe next day. And if I have a very good system, very smart system, I can do it next hour. So if I see the risk levels going up, and you see on the video, because I can see the trajectories and how vehicles interact based on different environmental conditions, traffic conditions, then I can do maybe something about that before a crash happens. I can also take this information that you see, the trajectory information, or in the middle, you see some conflict information, vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to cyclist, and so on. And then I can use that information very quickly to identify risk levels using something called surrogate safety measures. That means something that tells me that here there's a heightened risk of crash, although you're not observing the crash. And then you can make a decision, an intervention next week, or even tomorrow, if it's possible, to avoid a crash or an accident from happening. So just going back to the idea of surrogate safety measures, this has been around for a while, and then now people are using more and more, and the only reason that's happening more frequently because now we have better data, as I showed you. And then the surrogate safety measures is basically, for example, time to collision, and I'll show you a couple of them. So if you look at the interaction between two vehicles and then calculate from their trajectory data if they might have an accident if everything stays the same at the time of observation, then you kind of write this down as a possible risky situation. And you can count all of these similar situations, and then it might give you an idea. You can do the same thing for a crossing conflict. So you can count the conflicts, even though they don't become accidents or crashes, because they're likely indicators of accidents. You can count them, and if you see more of these things at a certain location, it gives you an indication that you have a problem here. So you have to do something. All right. So this is some of our graphics. So basically, like how close they get to each other, and how fast they get, they move towards each other, and so on. All these things can be quantified because now we have the data. All right. So these are some of the most common ones that are used. Time to collision. Some of you might have heard about them. So basically, I look at two vehicles, and then if I know that nothing happens, so if you don't slow down or if you don't decelerate, they might collide. So and if I can identify such instances, it gives me a number. Okay. NYMTC is something that we came up with, and it's been actually used now very widely in the literature. So basically, in addition to looking at relative speed, but we're also looking at the acceleration and deceleration in the index, in the equation that we calculate this time to collision. There are other ones like hard braking, because as I said, many of the vehicles now, they have in-vehicle devices that can collect that information. Actually, we use that kind of data from a company called Nexar. Some of you might be familiar. Almost like 10 years ago, they were able to give us hard braking events from the vehicles that have their own devices, complete anonymous, so we don't know who they are, but at least at certain location we can observe how many hard braking events there are, and then that can actually give you an idea about the risk levels. There are more sophisticated measures like deceleration rate to avoid collision or time to collision with disturbance that we used actually in the context of connected vehicle pilot test in New York City. They also tell you a little bit more than just plain vanilla time to collision. So these are some of, there are many more, but I think these are the most common ones that we use. As you see, for most of these, we need data about the vehicle's movements, trajectories, and what happens inside the vehicle in terms of braking, accelerating, and so on, and which is not a big deal today. We can collect that data. So this is an example of a project that we did, part of NCHRP. I'm putting these things here because if you want to read more, you can go back and look at these reports. And the other one is the connected vehicle pilot test report. And in both of these projects, we actually took these ideas, we took the data, and then tried them to operationalize the methodologies that we kind of briefly mentioned about. And actually, they're all depending upon that data that I mentioned. The DSM data is basically what every connected vehicle has to collect. So this data actually is available whenever there's connected vehicle deployment. So in this project, we use that in that format, but it doesn't have to be in that format. Different companies, different kind of probe vehicles, they collect it differently, and you can actually convert that into a format that you can use. So this is kind of a very brief slide about the outcomes of the connected vehicle pilot that we did in New York City. There are two key things that I want to emphasize here. So there's not enough time for me to spend too much on this. So when you look at this time to collision, you basically need to have a threshold, because if you don't have a threshold, you don't know how to define a possible collision. And in that project, we tried different collisions. So basically, is it closer than 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds? And then we found different results for different parts of the city. So taking a threshold that fits everything is not possible. And that's one of the things that we have to be careful when we do this kind of studies. So basically, you need to calibrate your thresholds that define the probability of failure very carefully. So basically, in New York, for example, cars drive quite close to each other because drivers are a little bit more aggressive, traffic conditions are more demanding than if you go somewhere in, let's say, Iowa. So you need to kind of calibrate these parameters very carefully. On the right side, we also showed that what percentage of vehicles have to be instrumented. So from what is the market penetration rate? So for the urban arterial, actually we found out that you need to have a 20% of the vehicles instrumented and then providing you this data, versus in urban freeways, it's lower market penetration rates will work equally good. So there are a lot of things that you need to calibrate and estimate when you're doing this kind of studies. So there's no like a default value that you can use. If you do that, you might get some biased results. So if it might give you results they will tell you that, oh, this is really not safe, although might not be true, or it's really safe location might not be true. So you need to kind of understand what the thresholds mean, what kind of how much data you need, so that you can make good predictions. So a little bit different than the crash data, because crash data is clear. It tells you how many crashes, how many injuries, how many fatalities. But here, there's a little bit additional engineering that you have to do to come up with useful predictions. We also did some innovative work with the connected vehicle pilot test. So this is basically the first time the idea of fitting the number of time to collisions, TTCs, the surrogate safety measures, on a timeline. And again, it's a little bit too involved maybe for this group, but what you're looking at is telling you the following. When you start giving warnings, for example, to drivers, in-vehicle drivers, about, say, a red light or approaching a queue, saying that slow down. When you do that, in the beginning, you see a big response. People respond, and then they start slowing down very quickly. So that this time to collision gets longer, that means it becomes much more safer. But then over time, the drivers, they adapt. They understand that, okay, this is a warning, but I can really pay a little bit less attention, and then they reduce their response time, not so much to the beginning of the test or before they were getting the responses, but somewhere in between. And then over time, they compensate for with their learning behavior. So in the beginning, they respond very quickly, almost in a harsh way, and then over time they learn and they find a happy medium, which is still safer than before, but they do not respond as frantically as before, because they know that they can kind of adapt to the warning a little bit more efficiently. This is another thing that we are doing with this kind of data, and this is completely new. So basically, we are not only looking at the risk levels, the surrogate safety measures at a given point, at an intersection or part of the entry or exit of a lane or link. Basically, we're trying to calculate a risk field. So trying to have a safety measure that tells you what is the risk level at the full link, not like at a portion of the link at a point, but throughout the link. And that is basically the idea of the risk field. So the animation actually is telling you that there's an ego vehicle. That means we can calculate this risk field in terms of any given vehicle with respect to all other vehicles. The one on the left, and these are all from real data from Federal Highway SHARP project, shows you that the ego vehicle is under more risk. The left one, the right one, the risk levels still kind of considerable, but it doesn't come to the level of possible crash. So we can actually visualize risk levels at the link level, and then give you a visualization of how risky the link might be. That's another method. Again, I'm taking all this data and I'm trying to apply different ideas, different methodologies to understand safety implications. So this is what we call a survival analysis with random effects. So for those of you who are familiar with safety, if you want to do before-after study, so if you do a treatment, improve the safety at certain intersection, you want to look at the data before the treatment and after the treatment. And in general, it's recommended that you need at least 2-3 years of before data and after data. And also you need to be able to compare that, the number of crashes before after, to a very similar location where you don't have any treatment. So all these things make it very complicated, because if I improve an intersection, I need to wait 3 years to see if that really made an impact or not. If I don't do that, if I just tell you how many crashes happen next 6 months, it might give you some idea, but it'll be super biased, because the number of crashes happen for different reasons, and I need this time period to make sure that I'm capturing exactly what happened. So in order to remedy that problem, statistical problem, in order for me to tell you statistically that if that improvement made sense or not, we developed a method that doesn't look at the crash counts, but looks at the time between the crashes. So our claim is that if I can understand from the data the time between two crashes become longer after the treatment, that's a good thing, no? Because eventually I'll see less number of crashes. If the time between two crashes remain the same after the treatment, then that's, I might say, I didn't achieve much. And then there is a way to do that using survival analysis. So it's like an analogy to a patient. You give a medicine to a patient and then see how long he or she survives, basically lives. And if that survival period is longer after taking the medicine, than before, then I know that the medicine has some impact. So it's exactly the same thing. So instead of counting crashes, which are rare events and which needs long time, I can count the inter-arrival time of crashes, which will give me much more richer data, and which might allow me to do this analysis in a quicker, faster way, not waiting for 3 years. So this is, again, some results from this kind of work and applied to our data from connected vehicle testbed and other simulation and so on, and shows that that works quite well. It gives me a faster safety evaluation than using traditional methods. So the final thing is using Gen AI. Basically, this is a paper also that we wrote recently. So basically, you can now use things like ChatGPT or Claude Code to understand what happens on the video in terms of safety. Again, we don't have too much time to go to the details of that, but this work also got the Vision Zero award from the mayor's office last year. So this is these videos are generated by Toyota Research. So these are kind of actors, but then they're made specifically to create scenarios that look like a crash or some unsafe situation. And then we used prompt engineering, basically asking the right questions to the large language model about this video and asking the large language model to tell us what's going on in terms of safety. And then it basically is capable of telling us the problems that it sees and interprets like a human being. And then we improved its responses by engineering our prompting, like the questions that we're asking, and also engineering the way that we feed the video into the large language model. So these are all new ideas. And again, even the previous one, you really don't need hundreds of thousands of engineers looking at experts looking at a video. You can use these large language models to tell us how safe or unsafe a certain situation or location is. So basically, it's very promising. There's a lot of ideas and ways that we can use to achieve Vision Zero, to detect the risks before accidents happen, and even use these emerging AI methods like large language models to study and understand video, and then go and make our changes, and then use maybe something like our surrogate safety method and tell us like if that improvement made a difference or not. So with that, I'm going to stop and then see if there are any questions, any concerns, ideas, and I'll be glad to answer them.
Well, thank you, Kaan. We are very fortunate to have several decades, that we won't mention how many, of your experience that we can build on and learn from. There's a lot here. Really appreciate all this information. And I'm wondering if there are any members who have questions about the presentation.
I'm seeing some applauses coming in. I don't see anything in the chat just yet, but if anyone has any questions, Adam, if you have any as well, feel free.
I hope I turned that on correctly. Actually, yeah, if I can ask a question, Kaan, I was curious, how is the work being used to identify, perhaps, or maybe we're ahead of that, identify pedestrian crashes? You kind of touched on that at the end. How is that working?
I think, again, a pedestrian is sometimes more challenging than others because you don't have enough data. But one thing that we have done, we are using the public feed from DOT cameras, basically to collect the data at intersections in New York City DOT, and then trying to use the methods that I mentioned to identify possible conflicts. So we are working on that, and that's obviously is interesting. Some of these AI type of methods that you need, data that is labeled. So our students also are working on labeling the data so that you can train these models. But kind of very promising thing. If you work with a large language model that are calibrated by these multi-billion-dollar companies, it looks like they're very good in analyzing this kind of data if you do the right prompt engineering, if you ask the right questions, and if you feed the video in a way that maximizes their understanding of that scene. So that paper is all about that. But definitely we're working on that.
Great, thank you.
Very informative. Do we have, Rosanna, do we have any questions at the meeting site?
No, there are none.
Okay, and Stephanie?
Yes, we do have a couple of just came in. There was just one of a thank you that this is really cool work. And then there was one question here in the chat. How long would it take to make these technologies available to operational agencies to implement the safety measures?
I think, and I don't want to be, super optimistic. I think they're ready to be deployed. I think it depends on the agency's interest and willingness. Actually, yesterday we did a NYMTC course explaining how you can work with agencies, what is needed for the agencies to adopt these technologies. I think my experience of like 30 some years, it takes a champion in an agency to see this and say, let's try it. Some of this, and a little bit of a different era we are in, so before, it was very, like everything was in equilibrium. You have a technology for traffic signal optimization and traffic signals, and that remains the way it is for the next 20 years. But things are changing very fast now. I think if the agencies are really interested in adopting these, there are companies, there are academic institutions like us very willing to test those. The challenge, so it's not all rosy. The challenge is that most of these things are pilots. So how do you move from a pilot to a wide scale? How do you upscale it basically? How do you go like to the real implementation for, let's say, 500 intersections? That is a question for which I don't have an answer, but I think the pilot is the right way to start, and I think it depends on the willingness of the agencies. The technology is here, and it's quite available.
Thank you. That's all for the chat questions so far.
Well, this is fantastic. I do plan to send it to our traffic and safety folks, and maybe we'll find a champion, Kaan, to get this some of this stuff moving. Because as you say, anything we can do to reduce those serious injury or fatalities, as whatever we can do, we need to be looking at. And this is really exciting stuff.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. I think we could talk for hours on this, so but we have to move on to our next item on the agenda. We're actually now going to move to the beginning of the public participation section of the meeting. We will hear from any registered speakers with prepared remarks. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to give the remarks. We will hear from these participants in the order that they are registered. And we ask that any speakers limit their comments to the relevant transportation and planning related items. With that said, Rosanna, are there any registered speakers for today's meeting?
No, there are not, Deborah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to register for future meetings, you know what we do with the registration. All right, well then we'll move on to the action items on the agenda. All materials related to these action items have been posted on the NYMTC website at www.nymtc.org. So the first action is to accept our February 11, 2026 meeting synopsis. I ask all voting members to announce your name and the agency you represent when you make or second a motion. May I have a motion to accept the February 11, 2026 meeting synopsis?
Joe Cuomo, Nassau County, I motion.
Thank you, Joe. May I have a second?
Second, Barbara Barrosa, Putnam County.
Thank you, Barbara. Does anyone object to this motion? Okay, hearing no objections, the meeting synopsis is accepted. Thank you all. The next action item is to adopt resolution number 608, selection of project proposals to be funded through the federal fiscal year 2025, section 5310, Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program. I will ask Amari Medina Milford to introduce this resolution. Amari?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. So NYMTC staff request that PFAC consider adopting Resolution 608. This resolution contains projects selected for funding by NYMTC Section 5310 Rating and Ranking Subcommittee. For context, the Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 program aims to improve mobility for older adults and people with disabilities by removing barriers to transportation service and expanding transportation mobility options. During NYSDOT's Federal Fiscal Year 2025 Section 5310 solicitation, NYMTC staff facilitated the scoring portion of this process for applications submitted within our planning area. The result was Resolution 608, which contains proposed lists of selected projects based on average scores and available funds.
Great. Thank you, Amari. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 608, selection of the project proposals to be funded through the federal fiscal year 2025, section 5310, Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program?
Renee Peter Smith, City DOT, so moved.
Thank you, Renee. May I have a second? May I have a second to that motion, please?
It's having an issue with my my setup here. Second, Chris Chatterton, Suffolk County.
Thank you, Chris. You got me worried there for a minute. Is there any discussion? All right, then we're going to now vote by roll call. We're going to start with the Lower Hudson Valley. Putnam County?
Aye.
Rockland County?
Aye.
Westchester County?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move over to Long Island. Nassau County?
Aye.
Suffolk County?
Aye.
All right, now to New York City Department of Transportation.
Aye.
New York City Department of City Planning.
Aye.
All right, and then now we'll move to Metropolitan Transportation Authority. MTA.
Sorry, same issue here. Yes, I apologize for that.
You guys are messing with me today. Okay. New York State Department of Transportation votes aye. Thank you all, and the motion passes. All right. Next action item is to adopt resolution number 609, amendments to the state fiscal year 2025, 2026, and 2026-2027 Unified Planning Work Programs, also known as the UPWPs. I will ask C2 Allen to introduce this resolution. C2?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So this resolution affects two state fiscal year Unified Planning Work Programs, or UPWPs. So for the first action, the MTA is requesting for state fiscal year 25-26 to add a continuing study to the work program. This is their first mile, last mile study. It was initially programmed in 24-25, and it needed to be added to the 25-26 work program. In addition, for 26-27, the New York City Department of City Planning, they're requesting to add some additional funding for 3 of their discretionary planning activities necessary to complete that work over the upcoming program year. NYMTC, none of these actions require new funding, and NYMTC staff requests that the PFAC please adopt this resolution.
Excellent. Thank you, C2. So may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 609, amendments to the state fiscal years 2025 and 26, and 26-27 Unified Planning Work Programs?
Yes, Connor Clark, New York City Department of City Planning.
Thank you, Connor. May I have a second?
Joe
Second, Pat
Cuomo.
Gurdon, Rockland County.
Was that, okay, Pat, did you second that?
Yeah. Second,
Great,
Pat
thank
Gurdon,
you.
Rockland County.
Perfect, thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, once again, we'll vote by roll call. Putnam County,
Aye.
Rockland County,
Aye.
Westchester County,
Aye.
Nassau County,
Aye.
Suffolk County,
Aye.
New York City Department of Transportation,
Aye.
New York City Department of City Planning,
Aye.
Metropolitan Transportation Authority,
Aye.
and New York State Department of Transportation votes aye. Thank you all, and the motion passes. The next action is to adopt resolution number 610, amendment to the vision element of federal fiscal years 2026 to 2055 regional transportation plan. I will ask Leslie Forger to introduce this resolution. Leslie?
Thank you, Deborah. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can.
Excellent. Yep, so I am here to discuss Resolution 610, well, present it briefly. So Resolution 610 would add the Eagle Avenue over Southern State Parkway Bridge widening project to the vision element. Since the vision element is aspirational, this amendment would have no fiscal impacts or implications. So to better reflect what current plan assumptions are, NYMTC staff recommends that you adopt Resolution 610. That is all. Back to you, Deborah.
Great, thank you, Leslie. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 610, amendment to the vision element of the federal fiscal years 2026 to 2055 regional transportation plan?
So moved. Craig Lader, Westchester County.
Thank you, Craig. May I have a second?
Second, Joe Cuomo, Nassau County.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any discussion?
Deborah, I just had a question. This is Chris Chatterton from Suffolk County. Can you tell me who the sponsor is for this project? Is this a Nassau County project? Is this a NYSDOT project?
I will turn to NYMTC staff to answer that. Who is the sponsor for this project?
This is a NYSDOT project.
The NYSDOT project. Okay, thank you, Leslie.
Thanks a lot.
Great. Any more discussion or questions? All right. So let's move on to the vote of by roll call, starting in Lower Hudson Valley. Putnam County.
Aye.
Rockland County.
Aye.
Westchester County.
Aye.
Okay, on to Long Island. We're going to go Nassau County.
Aye.
Suffolk County.
Aye.
Okay, in New York City Department of Transportation.
Aye.
New York City Department of City Planning.
Aye.
Okay, and finally, Metropolitan Transportation Authority.
Aye.
And New York State Department of Transportation votes aye. Thank you all, and the motion passes. Let's continue with the confirmation of the next PFAC meeting that is scheduled for June 18th, 2026 at 11:30 a.m. To conclude today's meeting, I ask for a motion to adjourn. May I have a motion, please?
Motion, Barbara Barosa, Putnam County.
Thank you, Barbara. May I have a second?
Second it, Renee Peter-Smith, City DOT.
Thank you. Does anyone object to this motion? All right, well, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and a special thank you to Kaan for the presentation and to all the NYMTC staff for the work that you've been doing. Really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
At some point, I need to show you some of the
shots I got down in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.